Turn on this AC because I know this topic is going to get pretty toasty. And this is not my first time addressing this issue here. But I'm going to go a little bit in depth for the time that I do have because I have something I have to do after this. Let's talk for a bit on child support and black father victimhood. Now, this video topic actually was inspired by a live that I was on yesterday. Dr. Umar Johnson, and many of you guys know who actually follow me know that I am an avid supporter of him, particularly his mission that he's on to disrupt the school to prison pipeline, and also to create more of like a utopia for black people here in America, right? Which may seem a bit far-fetched. I support that idea. I support the movement and all of that, right? And I've been supporting it for a while. Doesn't mean, though, just because I'm a supporter, that I don't have disagreements with Dr. Umar Johnson and his philosophies and his ways of thinking, right? And I've expressed this. I've expressed this in other videos. But like I said, here I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. Happy New Year to you guys who are watching me for the first time after January 1st. I actually went live yesterday. So, anyways, listen. Let's just take a pause real quick. Let's just breathe in slowly. And slowly exhale. Take a few deep breaths before we get into this. I know a lot of men watching this aren't going to be happy with what I'm going to say. They may not be able to even stand watching the entire video, right? They may just exit left. Good for them, because, you know, they can't handle the truth. And I find it ironic that a lot of truth bearers, there are a lot of black men, especially conscious leaders in the community, who are proponents of telling the truth, bringing about systematic change, but yet when it's turned around, when the focus is turned onto them and looking at them, they don't like the truth, right? No one likes the truth when the mirror is facing you. So I was on Dr. Umar Johnson's live yesterday. He went live yesterday evening on Clubhouse. I'm not on Clubhouse, by the way, but he was simulcasting on Clubhouse and also on Facebook. I was on his Facebook live. And basically the topic of the live was just to have a discussion surrounding solutions on relating to different issues impacting the black community, right? So some of the topics were polygyny, his favorite seems to be, right? Having multiple wives, black men having multiple wives. We talked about black women needing protection, right? Protection for the black woman, especially single black mothers. It was talking about the Democrat Party and student loans. You know, is it going into college? Is it even justified? Is it even worthwhile taking out student loans to go to college? You know, and that trap, right? It being beneficial to black people, or is it a trap? Also talked about mortgages, right? Purchasing a home. Is that even beneficial, right, to black people, or is it another trap, right? So there are different topics, right? A few that actually stood out to me, obviously, as it pertains to relationship between the black man and the black woman. That's something I talk about a lot here on my own channel and my page. And he talked about child support, right? Feel free to chime in, you guys. Say woosah, right? Anthony woosah. We have to bring it down, right? Because I know this topic can be very triggering, because a lot of people can relate, a lot of men can relate. A lot of men are unfortunately on child support. I don't necessarily agree with the system of child support, right? Many different ways to look at it. But being a woman And I do have a bias in favor of women towards women, right? I wouldn't say necessarily against men, but I'm a woman. So, of course, I usually side with women. That's just because I'm a woman. So, it's interesting how he actually had used some self-disclosure to illustrate his point when the topic of child support came up. So how the form was, he was on Clubhouse, but how the form was set up was that he allowed people to call in on Clubhouse to address any of the topics. There were like, I think maybe 10 different topics, and I gave you guys a few of the topics that were up for discussion. And so there were women, there were men calling in wanting to express their perspective on those topics, and also to get his perspective on the topic, right? Now, this video topic is on child support, and I have to go deep. I have to just be very frank and honest with you guys, because I find it to be very disjarring. I find it to be very discouraging. I find it to be just icky. I think the state of the black community, right, as it pertains to black men and black women, on the issue of building family. And here we have a black conscious leader who advocates for unity within the black community, family building, yet he has some very peculiar perspectives on this, right? Especially as it pertains to his own personal experience. Now, he actually helped procreate and create 2 black girls, right? One, I think, of which is a woman, and the other one is still a developing woman, right? She's a child, she's a girl developing into a woman by 2 different women. Not here to judge, right? This video or any other video that I make, I don't come from a source of judgment, but I do like to think clearly and deeply about particular issues, right? And analyze things from a critical lens. Because if it don't make sense, it don't make sense, right? Now, if you can make it make sense, make it make sense. So we're on the topic of child support. He was sharing his story about, now most of you guys probably already heard this story, how, he has, 2 daughters. I think they're like 10 years apart. I want to say his oldest was conceived when he was in his 20s, perhaps, right? Because he's in his 40s. He's getting up there in age, approaching 50, right? So his oldest was conceived in his 20s, and his youngest, I want to say, probably in his 30s, right, roughly. So he was relatively young, but old enough, right? And I have to emphasize the old enough in terms of maturity-wise and being able to make sound decisions, given that he oftentimes kind of brags about how his spiritual journey began and his awakening, right? His level of consciousness began way back when he was younger. He oftentimes talks about being in 3rd grade and taking African history and being called to go about the path that he's on now and being a black conscious leader, Pan-African specifically. Right? So given that he had this awakening very young, 3rd grade, like he says, right? Which is, I think, is a relatively young age to kind of be woke, and have this level of insight politically, socio-politically, right, into the issues that impact the black community. Because as opposed to that, he kind of almost shames black people who, for them, their awakening happens later in their life, right? Let's say, their 20s, 30s, after a triggering, life-changing event where they come in contact with, white people, right? And experience like this jarring effect that wakes them up, right? And for you guys who are psychologists, sociologists, you're probably familiar with William E. Cross Black Identity Development Model is actually one of the models that I talked about in my dissertation research on Black identity and acculturation. So within that model, basically the premise is that Black people oftentimes embody a level of self-hatred, right? Wanting to fit in with the dominant culture in society, that being European, white, up until they encounter this negative experience, right? It's very life-changing. It could be maybe, let's say, the denial of a job, right? Like you're out trying to find a job as a Black person, Black man or Black woman, and you're struggling, you're putting in all these resumes, and then, okay, it dawns on you like, okay, the resistance that you're experiencing is a byproduct of your race. So that can be an example. Or losing a job, right? Busting your ass on a job, getting up every day, going to a job, and then they let you go for no other reason, right? Unexplained reason, but racial discrimination, things like that. So an encounter like that can wake you up. So basically, he oftentimes talks about the kind of Black person who basically doesn't become woke, right, and experience this level of kind of spirituality and begin on their path up until they have that kind of racial negative encounter, right? As opposed to when he experienced it, aside from or irrespective of this kind of racial event. You get what I'm saying? So he's saying that it just always kind of was in him, like he kind of had this calling and he came to an awareness of it in the 3rd grade, right? So I'm saying this to lay the foundation, right? Because let's break it down. And I'm using this as an example, right? He's just one of many, but I use this as an example because, like I said, I was on his live yesterday. I support and follow him. I like the mission that he's on, but he's a great example for a lot of people, given that a lot of people follow him, right? He has a substantial following. He's a major influence in the Black community, not just here in America, but internationally. And so for a person that is such a advocate for being woke, right, and claiming that he was woke for many years ago back to the 3rd grade, it makes you wonder, right? Because when you look at his life trajectory and the time at which he impregnated the first baby mom, right, by that time, like, you would think that he had a degree of maturity, right? So he, on his live yesterday, was talking about child support. Say nowadays, Black women protect Black males from getting shot down, especially Black mothers and wives. Yeah, Black women have always come to bat for Black men. More so, I would say, than the other way around. Collectivism should matter, both being corporate and natural. So sometimes you have to question like these leaders who say one thing, but live life a totally different way, right? You're advocating for unity and you're speaking out against Black women being unprotected, but yet you've created not one but 2 families, 2 separate families, 2 different baby moms, and you weren't present. So his story, how his story goes, according to how he says it, was that he felt as the victim in those both situations. Not one, we're talking about like a 10-year span. His daughters, I want to say, are 10 years apart, roughly, right? It makes you wonder. Now we're not here to judge, but we're here to think critically about a thing, and we're here to also hold people accountable, because this is a leader, and you're influencing so many people. So there has to be a level of accountability. And we're talking about having love for one another. We have love for one another by being honest, just being straight to the point, right? And I just find it, I'm on this live yesterday, and I find it interesting how his story goes, the way he is explaining it, saying that he doesn't feel that it was right, that it was fair, that not one, but two, like how it's a different story, I think, if you find yourself, let's say, in a fucked up situation with one, right? Okay, and then you made a mistake. You learn from it, right? But the same thing happens, not one, but twice, where he feels that they made a decision against his will. So going into those relationships, his desire, right? His perspective, his expectation was to date. That's it. Just to date. But he's saying that they made decisions about his future for him against his will, right? With the mindset that they wanted to be married, to have children, to have a family, as most women do. So here is where I have to be 100 with you guys. And like I said, this is not my first time coming on here, right? I've made a whole another video about black men abandoning their families, abandoning their children and their baby moms. You know, I was in LA. I was actually at my doctor's office going to see my psychologist as part of my requirement in my doctoral program. And I had some time and I got there early, and I actually made a whole video when I was in the waiting room, right? And that video did go viral, but I was just talking about the lame ass excuse that black men make. And I'm like, it's almost unbelievable, right? And you can call a person on their bullshit, because it's just like, how can you preach black unity, black love? You're such an advocate for the black family and the black community, but yet your life is a walking contradiction. You don't really love women, right? You give the facade that, okay, you have love and respect for the black woman, but where is it manifested in your own personal life, right? We all have the ability to create a lifestyle for ourselves that we want, that is a reflection of our own philosophies, our belief systems, our values, right? So your choices, your actions, your decisions that you make are a reflection upon the way you think. So he's complaining in the live because he's using his own personal story to illustrate his point about child support, how he's opposed to it, clearly, right? And I'm opposed to it too. But not only that, like, perhaps he's sharing too much. Because he's like, oh, I just had to go to family court the other day. I don't think it's right. I have to pay child support. Just because I missed a payment, I'm being held responsible for it. Like, it comes off as an irresponsible man making excuses, right? Missing a payment. His argument is that he pays, and I guess prefers to pay, in lump sum. So lump sum being, I guess, not paying monthly, but paying whenever he wants to pay, right? Obviously, I guess the judge has a set amount based on his reported income of how much he is expected to pay on a monthly basis, and he doesn't pay it according to that schedule, right? He pays it when he wants to pay it, right? And like I said, this is not to target or attack him per se. He's an example for a lot of men. So I'm just using his story as an example for which a lot of these men, you guys are watching this, can relate to. But it's really about self-reflection, taking a look at yourself to see, like, seriously? But it says a lot about you, because you got to think about it. If you expect to be esteemed and respected as a black leader and the community, yet you're complaining about being a man, because part of being a man is taking responsibility for what you created, which was a family. And a family consists not only just, okay, a child that you help bring into this world, but the mother of that child. That's what makes a family. So you choosing to not commit to that mother of your child is you taking responsibility and ownership for creating a broken family in the black community. Not one, but two, because you did this twice. Two separate baby moms. Y'all, please make it make sense, because it's not making any sense, right? Think about that. It's so many, I feel like, it's so many faults within that situation. And I've heard this from many different black men. How you feel like you're portraying yourself as the victim. Oh, she made a decision about my future against me. That decision being expecting marriage, right? And he's saying that because he deliberately chose not to marry her, she held that against him and took him to child support, put him on child support. Make it make sense, guys, who are watching. Make it make sense. Then there were comments. I'm reading the comments, right? On his Facebook Live video, and you got people saying, oh yeah, some women, they make a whole come up from getting pregnant by men to put them on child support. And I'm like, these men really think that that's a come up for women? Like, what woman is going to sit up here and get pregnant? Men don't get it. Like, I think it really takes for a man, number one, to value women, right? If you value your mom, you value your sisters, right? And on aside from that, valuing them as a man, but really putting yourself in the shoes of a woman to know, first of all, what is it like to be a woman, to have a womb, to have the portal of life, right? As part of your body, you are the portal of human life. Human life comes through your womb, right? First of all, like, let's just pause right there. A lot of men don't even respect that. Then to think about the risk of motherhood, right? Being pregnant. There's a high risk that a lot of women just don't make it. You're risking your life to carry a child. And of course the counter argument would be, oh, well, that's what your body is designed to do. But that goes to show that you don't value. When you have men that retort, oh, well, that's your body is made to have babies, so why are you complaining? It's not to complain, but for us to even have to have this discussion to emphasize the intricacy of pregnancy and childbirth, because it goes over a lot of black men's head. They don't appreciate it, which shows they really don't value life, clearly, because it's a very delicate time. It's a very delicate situation. I did another video where I also talked about this, entitled, where I actually I did a psychoanalysis of Dr. Umar Johnson, so y'all can go check that out, where I actually was at UCLA when I recorded it. And I went deep, right? So I kind of created a more balanced, perspective in that video to talk about their need for his defense, right? It's the reason why he's defended against marriage, right? And committing to the mothers of his children. And then I presented the opposing perspective in alignment with his baby moms. But if men understood what it's like to be a woman, to carry a child, to risk their own life with pregnancy and childbirth, that whole experience is life-changing. Her body completely changes, right? So you're saying your body, your choice, contraception. No, sweetheart. That, yes, that's true, but we're not talking about that because I think, one can make a counter argument. Well, oh, just take birth control. You don't want children, just take birth control. But it takes two. So we're talking about pro-black, people who are truly pro-black, because you got people that are taunting the phrase pro-black, but they don't love themselves, right? And to love yourself is to love the black woman, because the black woman is a reflection of you. So that's how you can tell if a person truly loves himself. We're talking about black people here. We're not really talking about white people or any other race. That's how you can tell if you truly love yourself, because you love your reflection. Many black men don't, and you can tell the root cause of that dysfunction within themselves, right? If you pay close attention. A lot of black men, they overlook that intricacy of pregnancy and childbirth, right? They don't see how delicate of a time that is. The baby comes, right? Because it takes two, right? You're having fun. Black women like sex just as much as black men, right? We enjoy it too. It's not about that. But for a man, we're talking about a man who is aware. We're not talking about an ignorant nigga just out here fucking. Okay? That's a different conversation. We're talking about a man who esteems himself to be woke, with the goal of building up the black community, the black family, understanding the repercussions of that, understand the implications of that, right? And understanding how one's individual choices factor into that from a higher level of thinking. We're talking about higher level responsibility. We're not talking about just spitting out garbage based on how you've been negatively impacted by the media and what's happening in music videos and what celebrities are doing, right? We're talking about people who are responsible human beings here, mature human beings. So on one hand, you may say, he's saying that, okay, he didn't really want marriage. He wanted to date, but he wasn't necessarily ready for marriage, commitment. And I just feel like that's an irresponsible way of going about a situation, though. Because, let's be honest, there are really two types of black women here as it pertains to this particular issue, what we're talking about, right? You got black women, and it's no judgment, right? Because I'm all for sexual freedom, sexual expression, right? You got black women, yeah, just want to fuck, right? Get a nut, just like the black man, some black men, right? They're just in it, just have a good time. Let's just do that. And then a good number of black women, though, that's not, that example, right? The black women who kind of just want to fuck. They ain't really trying to commit, they don't really want fairy tale marriage, wedding, and all of that. At least not at that point, right? They're just, want to fuck. But then you do have a significant number of black women. If you listen, right, as you're dating them and getting to know them, it's clear as day, that's what they want. They want marriage, right? So it's not like it's a surprise. Oh, she wanted marriage, and I didn't really want that. And we're fucking, and then, oh, she's pregnant, but she knows I didn't want marriage. It's like, if you know as a man, this is where maturity comes in as a black man who is conscious and being a leader, right? Who's serious about the business. Not just talking out your mouth, but you're truly serious because you know the repercussions of bringing a child into this world, and there are not two active parents together involved in that child's life, right? You should know this. You don't have to go to school to get a fucking degree in psychology to know. You should know this. I'm talking about astute black responsible men here. That's the only men that I'm talking about here. At what part of being that responsible black person, black leader, how did that part get shut off in the conversation? if you know that you didn't want a family, marriage, right? But you know that this woman does because she's a good woman. She's not a thought. She's not here just fucking. She's fucking you, but she's not here just fucking, right? She's fucking with a thought in her mind that, okay, we're going to have a family. It's going to lead to marriage. Don't try to play stupid. See, a lot of men try to sit up here and play, oh, I didn't know that's what she wanted. Oh, they may know that's what she wanted, but then they know they wanted something else. And it's like, that's already a conflict of interest. So why are you sticking your dick in? That's not the responsible thing to do, sir. All right, so I'm about to block this person because I have a low tolerance for ignorance. I just do, right? So that's not the responsible thing to do. It's about being respectful, self-respecting, and being respectful towards other people, right? If you know that's not what you want, then why lay down with a woman? But you're being very careless in that situation. Just ejaculating into a woman, not thinking about the consequences. So then a woman has to teach you the consequences, right? Almost has to like mold you, right? So then she's pregnant, the baby comes, they're not together, right? There's not no plan, no future plan for marriage. She kind of goes into this bargaining stage with him. Say, okay, well, are we going to get married? What's the plan? He's like, no. So he says she goes to the white man, to court, right, to file for child support. Now, like I said, I'm opposed to the idea of child support, right? But I get it from a woman's perspective. Now, for me, I can tell you what I would do. I wouldn't go to the white man. Like, God forbid, right? God forbid something like that happens. I don't have children, and it's the reason why. Because I'm very calculated about who I open my legs to, who I even fucking go on a date with, who I even give my energy to, first of all. And the universe has protected me, thank God. But if it was me, I wouldn't go put a man on child support, right? Like if a man doesn't want, this is the way I look at it. If a man doesn't want to commit, we're not just talking about to the child, because a lot of men think that their commitment is only to the child. Like, oh, I gotta take care of my kids. That doesn't make you a great father. What makes you a great father and a man, an alpha man, is not only taking care of the children, but taking care of the woman. That's what creates a family. See, black men and women have to get back to the traditional way of how things are supposed to be done. We're talking about love here. If you want to say you truly love black people, how can you go out and want to care for someone else's children, building a school? You have all this love for complete strangers, but then you create a whole family and you don't show love. People use that word so loosely. You love and you sacrifice. Oh, I care. I sacrifice. I put my personal life on the back line, the back burner to give to the black community. But yet you have 2 daughters of your own. You have 2 baby moms of your own, and you're not taking care of them. You don't even care. You don't love. Where is the compassion? Where is the love? You have completely abandoned ship. But that speaks to the dysfunction, the psychological dysfunction of a lot of black men. Because we get it, right? Black men are ostracized, and I talked about this a couple days ago, right? Where, yeah, black men are kind of thrown away in this society, right? Trampled over. You think about it. Take that construct, right? A black man who's kind of like a reject to society, right? Devalued, put at the bottom, the lowest of the totem pole. That creates a certain kind of ego, right? A psyche within this black man. If he's not careful, heal, right? You have to go through healing to reverse that effect. But a lot of men don't get therapy, right? They're not self-aware. They don't reflect. They don't take the time to like heal themselves. So they walk around, they go about society, and you're interacting with women, and you just treat women how you've been treated, as a reject, as a throwaway, right? Do you see how that works? And it creates this perpetual cycle. But then we're talking about solutions for the black community here on this live, and you don't see the disconnect. You don't see where the problem is. It starts within yourself. So like I said, I'm a single black woman. I find it interesting, I'm open to dating. I'll entertain conversations with potentials, right? To see where their head is at, But when I start to listen to a black man speak, right, and I know what to listen for, it's like you get to see his perspective and how he views women. Now, a black man out his mouth can say, oh, I love the black woman. That's why you got to be careful when you have those kind of black men who kind of like glorify and fantasize on black women, especially kind of emphasizing the physical characteristics of her. Oh, you're so beautiful and all of that. But they really truly don't value the black woman. What does it mean to value something? It doesn't just mean to appreciate the physicality of it. A fucking rapist can appreciate the physicality of a woman. But do you truly value her as a whole being, right? Do you respect her? Do you love her? Do you care about her? They don't even know what the fuck does that look like. To truly love your black female counterpart. To dedicate yourself to her, to commit to her through thick and thin. It's not about going down to the courthouse and getting the white man's approval for a marriage certificate. We're not talking about that. We're talking about truly committing to her, loving her, being there for her, communicating that to her verbally and showing that to her, demonstrating that. They don't care because it would look different. So you want to complain as a black man the result of your lackadaisical attitude, not giving a fuck, being very selfish, self-serving because, you can just go on to the next one and throw her away like you've been thrown away. Basically treating her how you've been treated in this society. And you go to the next one and repeat the same cycle. Then who's to blame? It's not really about pointing fingers. It's really about taking individual responsibility, right? On behalf of the woman and the man. And that's where I take my own responsibility. Where I'm very cautious. And you got men like, oh, you too picky, right? When I'm on a dating site, they're like, oh, you too picky. No, I'm not. I have learned from other people's mistakes, right? Me, especially being the youngest child in my family, looked at my sisters. Not all, because most of my sisters, or actually, if not all of them, have been married, but they've had their fair share of mistakes that they've made. But not just blood, but also non-blood sisters, just looking out at women in general and seeing, like, fuck that, that's not going to be me. Struggling, pregnant, being abandoned by a man. So if I have to be overly fucking protective and cautious and guarded, then I will, and the right man will understand that. Why? Right? It's not that, he has to break down walls. Those walls, and I talked about this before, a woman's defenses in the face of a true, good alpha man, because energy recognizes energy, those defenses will fall down anyway, right? So it's not that, okay, a woman is guarded for legit reasons, given the fucked upness in our society. It's not that a man has to tear those walls down and all of that. No, those walls will fall down, right? But I think that it takes a really good, smart, attuned man to understand that, right? And I feel like that's where love comes in. Because love is understanding. He's like, oh, I get it, right? Almost like they say, what's understood don't need to be explained, right? So he's like, okay, I understand why she's a little bit guarded, right? That's what it means to be woke. Because it happens, a person, you see that person in the context, right? Not just in a vacuum as the individual, but you see the layers outside of them that have negatively impacted them, the society in which they live in, the culture, our fucked up culture, you know. But going back to the example, let me grab some more. Going back to the example, it's just like, I think it is really sad though, right? And it may sound like, okay, we're pointing the fingers at the man, we're only holding the man accountable. Well, this is only in the context of a certain hierarchy within our society, right? Within, I'll not say our society, but within African culture, where the black man is expected to be the head. So when I'm speaking, you have to understand that I'm speaking from that kind of context with the black man being head, right, of household. The head of household, yeah, a good portion of the responsibility is going to fall on you because you're supposed to be the leader here, right? So now he's the victim. Out of nowhere, he's a victim. It's just like, I know black men are not as stupid, right? But to play stupid in hindsight, it's just to get dumber and dumber, right? So I'm gonna have to wrap this up. But I must say this. Hold on. Yeah, I definitely have to wrap this up. But I must say this is that where do black men take a pause and really take responsibility? Sometimes life will have to hand you a lesson. So then the black woman goes to the courts and file child support. Not that she wants to, but that's her way of controlling the situation, because then she feels disempowered. That now she is pregnant or has given birth to a child who's the father of that child don't even want to have anything to do with her, right? But yet he wants to see the child. Like, y'all make this shit make sense. You want a woman to hand over something that she's naturally, instinctively designed to protect, right? Talking about natural animalistic instincts within a woman to protect. If she is having discord with you as a father of that child, not even the father, because the father takes care of the family, but as the fucking donor, the sperm donor, right, for that child, y'all not even on good terms. It's beyond just disagreement though. It's like you have betrayed her trust, right? Because there's miscommunication. You have deliberately showed her that you just don't give a fuck, right? That's a very vulnerable time when we're talking about a woman is pregnant with a child. Very vulnerable time in her life. And she's giving birth even more vulnerable, right? That is not the time to abandon ship, right? We talk about street code. Y'all niggas be out here doing y'all do in the streets. And y'all talking about, oh, the street code, right? And what happens if you turn your back on your fellow homeboy? So think about that. That's like equivalent, if not held to a higher degree. You turning your back on a woman that you have put a seed in, kind of left her out there in the cold, and now you expect her to hand over her offspring to you just blindly if she feels like it doesn't work that way. Make it make sense. That's like you turn your back on your homeboy in the streets, completely betrayed him, right? But you expect him to give you the key to his house. Hell, fuck no. Come on, it has to be a level of understanding. Like, this is basic common sense. And of course, there are women that say, you know what, well, I don't, I forgave him. That's a different situation, right? Maybe he is a respecting man, so he's earned that level of privilege to be able to see his children, to take care of his children, to co-parent, right? Because they have that understanding. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when you got men that just don't give a fuck. So it's like, it's your karma, right? And so he's saying that he wants 2 wives. It's like, oh, it's going to happen this year. I'm going to get 2 wives. This is the year I'm going to finally settle down and marry. And I'm like, yo, he's approaching 50 years old. That shit ain't going to fucking happen. I hate to say it, but karma is a bitch. If God already sent you 2 women that you could have made wives, but you didn't even appreciate them, you had opportunities to right your wrongs and still didn't do that, but yet what are you seeking? You haven't matured. You haven't matured clearly because his perspective is still the same. He's still stuck in that same mindset as he was in his 20s when he created that child. It's different if his mindset has changed, but he's still giving the same excuse. Oh, she trapped me. Like, you feel trapped. But it's the man who inserts his manhood into a woman, though. Yes, she opened her leg, but come on. Every time a man ejaculates, he has the propensity to procreate. A woman can orgasm. That's not going to mean she's going to fucking procreate, because that's not how procreation works in the female anatomy, right? We release 1 egg per month. Very small window. But a man, on the other hand, every time he ejaculates. So yes, a good portion of that responsibility is in his hands, because every time he ejaculates, we're talking about being able to impregnate a woman. Get it right. Hold yourself accountable, man. That's how you become an honorable, self-respecting, respectable man. Taking responsibility. Some men I have much respect for, because you don't have to tell this to them, right? They already know this, right? I have much love and respect. In the whole conversation of 50-50, what's the contribution to the bills, the financial bills? It's just like, you got men literally expecting women to contribute 50% towards the bills. No, a man is already able to take care of himself. They need to be taught. It's just like, who raised you? Who raised these men? And we wonder why there's a breakdown in the black family. Because there's a breakdown in the mind of a black man. That shit needs to be built up. But on that note, I gotta end this video. Feel free to share your comments below. I just think it's very disturbing to hear those perspectives of men. And I have to say this before I end this show. So of course I share my perspective, right? And just being quite honest, And I said in a comment on Dr. Umar Johnson's live video, which inspired this video topic here, I said, a real man would not put a woman in a position to even have to ponder child support. Like I said, I know that I'm a woman, so of course I'm biased. I'm like, imagine myself as a man. I could not see myself doing that to a woman. I'm going to be there like she's carrying my fucking child. Of course, I'm going to do anything possible, right? To communicate, to demonstrate, and to show that I love not only the child that she's carrying, but her, making sure that she's protected, number one, and provided for and taken care of, yo. Now, whatever she chooses to do, not to say that's going to make her a perfect woman, right, and be completely loyal or whatever to me, right, because she could abuse that privilege and go out there and do irresponsible things. But at least I know, as a man, if I were in that position, I've done my part, right? I don't see how men do that. But anyway, I said that, and I saw he was like looking at he was looking at the phone. And I'm like, oh, he sees my comment, and he reached out and he touched the screen. And I'm like, oh, he had to block me. So yeah, he blocked me. And I know that because I went to make another comment and it's like, oh, there's an error or whatever, right? I'm like, okay, he blocked me. I clicked on his page and I noticed that I noticed that you know you're blocked on someone's fan page on Facebook when you click on their page, go to their fan page, and you see where on their posts you don't have the ability to comment. So yes, I'm blocked on Dr. Umar Johnson's page for the very first time in many years, and I can say, I mean, I still have respect for him. I still support him and his mission. You know, that's not gonna stop me from supporting him because he blocked me. I just know that what I said obviously struck a nerve in him. Truth is truth, right? It's just, you have to somehow come to a realization of the truth. Otherwise, you're going to continue to repeat the same patterns. It's like we self-sabotage ourselves when you think about it. You look at your life and you're like, damn, you know, my life can be a lot better. Why am I struggling? Life is so hard. But do you ever consider and ask yourself, well, damn, what am I doing? I could be doing something different to enhance the quality of my life, to enhance the quality of my relationships with women or with men, you know, with my family. Can you take a look at yourself and ask yourself that? Or are you the one that be like, oh, women ain't shit, niggas ain't shit? You know, this goes from women and men, right? I'm the victim. If you could, when you tell a story, if you always paint yourself as a victim, not to say that you weren't victimized or done wrong, but if you're always carrying on that narrative, like, that is problematic. That's not going to help you move forward in life. It's going to keep you stuck. And here he is, a man that's approaching 50, a black conscious leader, and he's talking about wanting to get married. It's just like, please. You got to go back and revisit what happened, because when we think about it, his same mentality, right, of, oh, she trapped me and she made decisions on my life, that's completely speaking from the position of being a victim. She made decisions about my life for me, assuming marriage. He still has that narrative, same broken record playing. It's like, until you break that shit, nothing is going to change. But on that note, I will catch you guys later. Love you guys. Feel free to drop your comments below. I got to go take care of business. I'll probably be in Harlem today. Catch y'all later.